Well, we are just heading live here, Misty, to connect with some of our audiences, but I'm doing a little bit of the technical configuring on the various platforms. So here we go. We're getting up on LinkedIn,
Yay!
seeing if we're up on YouTube. Yep, and we're on Facebook. So look at that.
Watch out, world.
Watch out, world. Here we are. Well, let's just jump right in. We are going to talk about you and your journey as an author and how your journey unfolded through Nonfiction Book School and through some of the work that we've done together. One thing I want to just quickly introduce my audience to you and also just share a little bit about our relationship, because I think that's important context as well. So Misty is a creative producer. She's a keynote speaking coach. She is a woman whose mission is in the world is to really uncover that voice within humans, but has this big mission and heart for women, but also works with corporate clients and really has helped shape some of the most phenomenal keynotes. She has given phenomenal keynotes. She organizes events. She's just like all the things. And Misty and I have really had a wonderful unfolding relationship over many years. And we've had different points where you supported me in developing something about myself or within my business. I supported you in developing something within your business. And one of the ways that I've gotten to support you is through Nonfiction Book School and through the book that you are working on and that will soon make its way out into the world. So, Misty, why don't you just start by talking a little bit about your book and kind of what led you to join me in Nonfiction Book School, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I love you. So for anybody listening, we started working on leadership as a performance art before I met you. And we'll get into the two different processes that were going on there. But leadership as a performance art was me taking everything that I knew about the creative world, because I also have a background in acting and directing, and how to apply that in the corporate life that I lived during the day. So I felt like I was living two different worlds. And in actuality, I wasn't. I was applying both of the things that I was learning in those worlds to each other. And the fact that I was sitting at tables with people with PhDs from Stanford and all these Ivy League schools didn't really affect me, because I was coming with a completely different perspective and a way of working that helped me be successful. And so I wanted to pass on that information to others of like, hey, here's how you can have a road to success and do something that is wildly creative, that is within your brand, and then how to measure it as well. So it's that creativity meets like KPIs and all that goodness in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've been able to marry your expertise in theater with your corporate work and now running your business, and it's been really cool to see. I mean, you and I both come from worlds in which all we really desired was to live creative lives, right? And like work in a creative sphere. And then we had to learn how to then navigate that into, I also want a professional life and a professional career, and to like make a good living and live a good life. And it's been so cool to just watch you over the years. And then now also with this book journey, watch that unfold as well. So I'd love to know a little bit about the journey of writing your book, and what are some of the successes that you've seen along the way? What are some of those? I know, like for me, every time I work on a book, there's some kind of inner transformation or clarity or something that shifts. So I'd love to hear from you on your own experience.
I will say, before I had successes, I had a lot of failure. And yes. So it wasn't like I just started writing and it was brilliant. Because I write so many speeches, I feel like I'm a very good writer because I know how to take an audience on a journey. But different writing styles don't always apply to the longer form. And I had gotten advice to, hey, just write where you feel passionate about in your book and just start that chapter or write that paragraph. And so I was doing that. It was like, what do I feel like writing today? And then I would go write something. And it was completely disjointed. It lacked like a through line and a flow, which I know.
Through line. If anybody doesn't know that phrase, can you define that for people? Because that comes from theater. That's really important.
Yeah, a through line is the basic theme or thesis that you want that connects the beginning of the story all the way to the end. And so in books, you have all these wonderful chapters, but they need to somehow tie together and unite. It shouldn't just be, this is my idea, my thought for this. And now we're going to pivot here. Just like in a speech, you don't just talk about one subject and then in the middle you're switching to an entirely new subject.
Yes.
So I knew this. And I will say, coming into your program, I already loved you. I knew you as a human. And so I had high expectations. But one of the things, we spent a lot of time on the outline. And to me, the process is so similar to my speech. Like when people follow me in my program, the amount of time we work on the outline and ideation and all those things is important because you need to weed through all of the ideas to find the magic ones. And your process was so beautiful and so step by step that it made it easy to follow. And it gave me the connecting points that I was missing. And so I felt like, unfortunately, I had to rewrite my entire book, but it is so much better for it because it makes sense in the flow.
Yes. Yeah, that piece of it is so important. And that's why, it's well known in the publishing industry that there is an abandonment point with books, and it's around 20,000 words, which is a little bit less. It's like maybe 40% of the draft completed. So it's a little less than half. And a lot of the reason for that is really the planning piece. People get really inspired. They sit down, they're feeling really energized. But then about a little less than halfway through, they kind of like their heads kind of rise above the clouds and they're like, oh, okay, how does this all connect? And now what do I do? And they get stuck. And that's why, and same with how you coach on keynote planning, workshop planning, all the things that you teach people. Having that plan is really the foundational piece so that you can execute. Because without a plan, where are you going?
Exactly. So you can go in with intention, right? You're being very intentional about what you're writing. But I will say, to your point about people hit that block, I did too. But the wonderful thing is that in your program, you talked us through those moments. And what really helped me unblock and finish finally was you saying that your first draft is not your finished product.
Yes.
Just create the habit of writing and get it down on paper. And then you will have all of these different edits from yourself, your editor. And so being okay with that messy first thing, because sometimes I just wanted it to be perfect. I wanted that line to be perfect. And so that was stopping me because I didn't know what to write that day. And you giving me permission to not be perfect, to just get it out and create the habit of showing up for myself and just writing really took me through completion. And I know took a lot of our cohort through completion. Like you nurtured us through every hurdle that we had, and even the ones we didn't know we were going to have because somebody else was already a little ahead of us and going, I'm struggling with this. And you were like, all right, let's tackle that. And so being in that cohort is really important because you get to ask questions that you need in the moment, but then you're hearing people ask their questions and you're going, ooh, I didn't even think of asking that. Oh, and the fact that we have that wide range from publishing to editing to writing to being a ghostwriter and getting books out there is like second to none in any program.
Oh, thank you, Misty. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that I feel strongly sets the work that I do apart from others who offer, write your book programs, is that, well, one, I have the deep experience, not just writing my own books, which is normally when you see people teaching this, they've only ever written their own books, but also being an editor for 8 years and then being a ghostwriter, having written or ghostwritten 17 books myself, having coached dozens of authors and impacted hundreds more through the various things that I do. That piece of it, I think, is really important when it comes to the writing piece. And that's, again, where when you look at other ways that you can learn how to write a book, they're not actually focused on creating a business, brand, impact, sustainability tool. They're looking at getting it as fast to market as possible and as painless as possible and as easy as possible and as cheap as possible, instead of really like, what is the rush? Why not actually engage in the process and write a great book? Like, sometimes I'm like, why do we have to be on hyper speed with these things? Why can't we really deeply engage?
Well, that's the thing too, is that you see all these like write a book in 30 days. And do I think you can achieve that? Yes. Is it going to be a great book? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the process that you take us through not only gives us the step-by-step to go, okay, here's the outline. So when I left the book for like a week and couldn't write because work and life, and I came back to it, I knew exactly where to pick up. And then on top of that, the tips that you give us to enrich our language and do all of these things that really heighten our writing is so good. Like, I can tell somebody that has gone through your program. I've bought every book of my cohort. They have published some of them, like their books are now textbooks for colleges. Like, it's crazy. And I look at a lot of books that aren't through your program, and just the difference in how it's delivered and the voice that I could hear.
Oh, yes.
Those people.
Yes.
Like, I can hear Christine's voice in her writing. Like, it is like speaking to her. It is so funny and witty and smart. And then some other people that I read, it's just like, you're telling me instead of showing me right now. And so it's really a big difference. And it's all in the way that you approach things. And you go, okay, yes, like, we can write. Here's the formula. Here's this. Now let's heighten our language. Now let's figure out the tools and strategies to make it the best version of yourself on that page, because you weren't there to read it to everybody.
Yes. And that's such a great point, is back when I was an editor, people would want to explain things to me before, like, oh, when you get to this chapter, just so you, and I'm like, no, you cannot explain anything to me, because I'm coming in as a first reader and I need to have that experience. And you have to remember that when you put this book out into the world, you're not going to be there over their shoulder explaining what you meant here or why you said it this way.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, that the voice development and some of those other pieces that we work through, that's iterative, right? We start first with the idea, we build the outline, then we get you started, we create your plan, and then we start working through some of those writing pieces so that you're developing as you go. Which, again, the more time you have to work on something, the more opportunity you have to develop yourself as a writer along the way, which I think is so cool, that you not only, leave with this new skill of book writing, but also a better writer, right? Like, you actually have improved yourself as a communicator in written form.
100%. And I will say that I've been able to, it's going through the editing process right now, which is a whole new process for me. And I'm like learning this process and tapping you and going, is this normal to feel this way? And you're like, yes, don't worry about it. So it's been really nice to have phone a friend. Yeah. But on top of it, going through editing, last year, I spoke straight at events for almost 4 months. Mm-hmm. And I was able to lift things out of my book like that and be prepared for a variety of speeches. Like, I did not give the same speech at every single place. Like, I'm allergic to that anyway, but I had the content and the development already and the research done and all of these pieces that made it so easy for me to lift that, go into an outline, figure out and massage it the way I needed it to for that particular audience. And that is such a gift, to have so much like meat to pull from for what I do for a living. Mm-hmm. To help in a variety of ways in my day-to-day, for sure.
Oh, that's such a great other piece to it that I often forget to talk about when we think about like what's the value of that book long term. And yeah, having that content, ideas, a lot of, especially people that come in to write a book to support their business growth, new frameworks, new revenue streams that they develop through the process, that give them the ideas to develop further courses, coaching offerings, consulting offerings, keynotes, workshops, all those types of things is just so wonderful. I love that piece of it. So, Misty, if you were, if you had somebody that sent you a message and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining this program," what advice would you give them?
I'd be like, why are you hesitating? To me, if you want to write a good book, it is a no-brainer to do it with somebody that knows every single part of the process, that can carry you through that has books through other people that have written theirs, ghost written books, have written their own bestsellers. Like, there is nobody better. And I think it's hard for people to invest in themselves. And this investment, not only for the book, but for you getting clarity on your message and your purpose and what you are meant to share with the world, it is not just what's on that page, but it's what you personally get out of that and go, this is what I'm meant to be writing about. And there's somebody out there that needs to hear your story because they're not reflected out there. So I would say go for it. Take that hesitation. As Mel Robbins says, don't hesitate for more than 5 seconds, because if you hesitate for more than 5 seconds, then your fight or flight kicks in, and then you'll start like believing in that story that you're telling yourself of, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, look at it and go, yes, this is for me. I don't have maybe the ideal book in my mind. I don't know what it's going to be. I didn't know what it was going to turn into either. But through your process, that's what it's about. It's about uncovering what that story is going to be and what that end-to-end product looks like.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Misty. Thank you for sharing. And I will, when, after this live is over, I'll be sure to drop in your, social profiles on each of the individual platforms that we're on. But I would love, how will people find out about you and your work too? And where can they follow along so they can get a copy of your book when it's out?
See how she is? She's pushing me towards the end, y'all.
What is that release date? No,
I know. She's like, commit to it now. My social profiles are my name, so it's easy to find me. My website is my name, mistymegia.com. All my socials are under my name, so very coded way to find me. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm in through hopefully close to the last round of editing, but I'm on it. I'm on it. This is my goal, as you know, this year. Let's get this on a shelf, and not my shelf in the back of me.
Yes, it's going to be on my shelf and the shelf of tons of people everywhere. I cannot wait.
There we go.
Thanks for joining me, Misty. This was a lot of fun.
You bet. Love you.
Aw, love you too, friend. Oh, that was so fun.